So I think the highlights for me this year would be the engagement, just generally. That in the various sessions, there's no hesitation to participate, there's no shyness, and there's a clear desire and passion for the issues we're discussing. The different sessions we had, we tried to make it so that they were geared towards facilitating a process of that participation. So yesterday afternoon, we broke out by thematic thematic SDG groups. So focusing on inequalities or gender equality and leaving no one behind, peaceful, just societies and institutions. And by breaking up in this way, participants, it was hoped, would be able to share those items that they are working most closely with and can strategize around together. And so that seemed to be a good opportunity for participants to really speak candidly about issues they're facing and how they're trying to overcome them, all within the context of both social development and Agenda 2030. But more importantly now, everybody behind me is broken up into regional groups to discuss regional strategies for the next 2 weeks at the CSocD and for the next year together as a group. And in that sense, we I think are developing good strategies for social development, not just in the short term, but also in the medium term.
I traveled about 25 hours to be here, and I am very happy for this opportunity. It is enriching, the diversity, the insights, the perspectives, brilliant. We have brilliant laws on paper, but my worry is we have no result. We are talking a lot, we are writing a lot, but very little is being done. So what my worry is, what can be done to empower people so that we can see the results that can change their lives. These people, they need resources, they need opportunity. What can we put in to enhance these opportunities? Region, it's very important also because we are going to make our voices heard so that we can push the SDGs from an African perspective and make those that do not come from Africa to understand what we need this to be done the African way in order to develop ourselves.
I'm very interested in all the social development goals, but in particular I'm interested in eradicating poverty, hunger, because of my work in Africa with poor people. And also I'm very interested in ecology and also alternative fuel sources, solar energy in particular. Yesterday's meeting was very good. The people were very energized, quite passionate about many of the subjects, and it had the strange effect of shaking some of my long-held opinions and thoughts. So I was very, very pleased with it. I'm expecting the next week and a half to be just as energizing, and hopefully when I return to the UK I'll have plenty of information to work on and possibly pass along to the groups with whom I work as well.
I was impressed by the entire assembly and their openness towards the empowerment of the women and children. That's one thing. And in the discussion we had this evening, powerfully the point came up, especially in Asian countries, education is still very, very poor. And so we find that even the government has, especially in India, government has made it mandatory that every child be educated up to the age of 40. But the quality education is very, very poor and missing. So developmental activities are happening all over. And yet, I think the development here is not empowering people to stand on their feet, but maybe rolling out things. As a result, they become receivers and we become providers. So that's been some of the highlights of this day, and I'm very much impressed at the way that we were able to share.
Being from Guatemala, the biggest thing for me is to solve problems like hunger. So I noticed that in the panel, a couple of people brought the idea that the family can be a really good beginning for this this social floor kind of thing that they were talking about. Somebody brought up the idea that we should figure out what is common about all the Latin American countries. And we all unanimously pretty much said the family. We're all about la familia. There are little tiny nucleus all over the world. You don't have to completely eliminate programs. There are programs that work because some people don't have families, but for those that do, take them as an asset to solve the problems in the world. And one of the people in the Latin American region, I think they were from Mexico, they said that their biggest fear is violence because Latin America has a lot of violence. And so they said, if they can teach the parents to not be violent, then the children are less likely to be violent. I found that really beautiful.
People across the world are working on bringing those who are underprivileged, those who are dehumanized or patronized or their causes minimized. There are people coming together to advocate for those people. And one of the biggest things, this being my first UN meeting, one of the biggest things that I take away is for people's ability to understand where we're all coming from. It doesn't matter if you're in North America, it doesn't matter if you're in Canada, it doesn't matter if you're in Africa, we're all advocating for some of the same things, right? So the second biggest takeaway I took away from this was the language. We have to be able to create a language that's universal for everyone, right? Without being discriminatory, without being minimizing anyone's culture or religion, or just overall just not embracing what they have to offer to the table just because it doesn't coincide or align with our beliefs.
You have to address the basic needs first, but the goal is always to rise above that. Once the basic needs are met in strengthening that household, then they look at what are the things in this family's environment that we could point them toward. We can bring them the tools, not just keep bringing them food. We can bring them tools so that they can be self-sustaining, and once they're self-sustaining, then we have this next level of tools and skill sets to help them with, but they address the entire household, not just one piece, not just this economic piece, but also maybe an educational aspect and also a healthcare aspect. And I think that those things are very important to the whole family. If you have a family that is in hunger, in poverty, and you only address the children and making sure they have an education, and you leave that mother behind in a literacy component, say, then she will not be able to be as effective in her community as an asset to her family and the community as she would if she had these tools. And really, it's about seeing all people as assets in their communities and not just as takers of services. It's building them to the assets that they were meant to be.